Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are
How's your plumbing?
Good. Everything's good.
That's good. That's good.
Um, okay. Yeah, so I saw Liz. Didn't think she was gonna make it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
here we go.
Mhm.
That was Liz who sent that thing about the plumbing,
Um,
right?
of
It
course.
was Liz who said, yeah.
I don't know the way it was phrased. I thought it was you. Oh
No,
no.
oh, it was Liz. It was
Oh,
Liz.
no wonder she's not around. Oh, okay.
There.
Okay. I can't get anything right these days. Oh well.
I've also found that, by the way, I've been like finding that I read articles and I misread the beginning. It's becoming more common that I misread the beginning and then
So
I
you
have to
have the
go
wrong
back and
people or
reread.
something. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I have to come back and reread it.
Yeah.
That's become more of a
Right. Speaking of reading articles,
yeah.
there's a long, very long article in the New Yorker about Sinwar. David Remnick wrote it. I'm just flabbergasted at how much freedom this man had been given. I mean, he was going to meetings in different countries. I I'm confused about what's going on in Israel, Rabbi. I, I don't know.
We are ultimately we are supposed to trust in God. That is all I know.
Oh, okay.
What I'm going to do. I never trusted. I never had my trust in the Israeli government or the Israeli army or whatever. I'm very grateful for everything they do, but I never had my trust in them. So ultimately, we are trusting in God. That is
Well, uh we were reading the Reuven and Gad the other day. That was the
yeah,
parsha from, and the way that they were outside the land, but they were the people who said, "We'll be the vanguard. We'll go in and we'll do, and then we'll come out." And I was thinking, in a way, they're the people in the land, and we're the vanguard. I don't know how to help, but do you see kind of the analogy?
wait. You say that we're the vanguard?
Well, because they're in the land, the people who are fighting and actually dying are in the land, and we should be doing something to help because we're safe out here.
Right, except they they went to fight first.
That's true. That's true.
They went to fight. They weren't helping from the outside. They helped from the
The
inside.
inside. Yeah.
Um, that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to help, but
Right.
if
Right.
we knew how, if somebody knows
Exactly.
how to help, then we should help.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
Everybody thinks trusting in God means that you're not going to make an effort. The trusting in God part is supposed to mean we're not supposed to indulge in fear. We're not supposed to whip up our own fear. That's the trusting in God part. But it's never about not doing something if a person can do it. But I have found it's always been the reaction when I said we should trust in God. People automatically assume that what I'm saying is you shouldn't do anything. That's not it. The trusting part is not indulging in fear. That's the part. That
yes.
he, God, prohibited us from swearing by an idol, that he may not even have its worshippers swear by it. As he explained what they're saying, you shall not have an idolater swear by his deity. and that is his, may be exalted, saying, and make no mention of the name of other gods. Do not make an idolater swear by his deity. And in Sanhedrin, it says, make no mention, that a man should not say to his fellow, wait for me next to idol X. One who transgresses this commandment, negative commandment, meaning that he swears by one of the creations that are thought of as God by those in error, in the matter of exaltation, is liable for lashes. So this wasn't obvious at first, but the Rambam is now stating it. It could be that you're not necessarily swearing by an unique deity of these people. You're even, let's say, swearing by the sun or by the moon or by something else that others worship.
When it said, don't stand, tell your brother, whatever, you won't meet him by the idol or something. Does that mean you shouldn't even acknowledge that it's an idol? What did that mean?
Right. So in other words, you should use another landmark.
Uh-huh.
You shouldn't use it as a landmark. I know we could look at this right after. Let's wait for a second. One who transgresses this negative commandment, meaning that he swears by one of the creations that are thought of as gods by them in error, in the manner of exaltation, is liable for lashes. And in the Gemara Sanhedrin, it says that even with that which we have been prohibited to hug an idol, to kiss it, to sweep in front of it, and similar actions of honor and love, one is not lashed for any of them, except for one who vows by its name or one who refers it by its name. The regulations of this commandment have already been explained in the 7th chapter of Sanhedrin. So we're going to look up, because I know there are people who won't say, meet me at a particular church or on the corner of where there's a church, but let's look at, see if second. It's all about Nikla, Iranidathas. So Iranidathas. One second. This is all about the Iranidathas. So I'm just trying to see. Right. Why we went there. I don't know why we went there. Why would it take us there unless it was the end of the previous one? 1 second. Let's see if it's number 3. This has to do, I just noticed this. We were talking about this before. Just going to read it. It is prohibited to make images for decorative purposes, even though they do not represent false deities. Do not make with you gods of silver and gods of gold. This refers even to images of gold and silver, which are intended only for decorative purposes, lest they err and view them as deities. It is forbidden to make decorative images of the human form alone. Therefore, it is forbidden to make human images with wood, cement, or stone. This prohibition applies when the image is protruding. For example, images and sculptures made in a hallway and the like. A person who makes such images is liable for lashes. In contrast, it is permitted to make a human images that are engraved or painted, portraits which are wood and stone or that are part of tapestry. Remember we were talking about those dolls?
Right.
Where there's an image with, but here it's talking about making them. I wasn't talking about owning them.
I always wondered about cameos because I happen to
Yeah,
like them
I
very
know.
much.
Yeah, those I know they go in this area. I know there's a lot written about it, but yeah. So then it goes on to Iridachas. I don't know why it took us here because it doesn't look like our law is in there. But I do want to look for a second to see.
Go ahead, take your time.
All right, 1 second. I just want to see if halacha. No, I don't want that. No, it's all about that. Let's see. I'm not meeting. Try giving directions. It just goes right there. I'm doing this. It's not doing it like a new search. All right, whatever. I know there's an issue, but somebody would talk about it. But
You're looking for a specific question?
yeah, I was looking for giving directions using a church as
Oh,
a because it obviously this is talking about an idol, not meeting by an idol, but I know this comes up when are you allowed to say meet me? Let's say there's a church that's a big landmark. So are you allowed to say, let's say you were in Paris, meet me, by Notre Dame or something like that.
oh,
I know.
um, what about all the if you are in Rome or something, you were mentioning Rome last night.
Yeah.
It was funny. And you have all these gorgeous human statues in the Pieta. Are you allowed to look at them?
Right. So here it did not say, it said to show like special favor to them, to embrace it. It talked about fashioning it, but it didn't talk about just plain looking at it. Even in that little brief Rambam that we saw from the codes, it just said fashioning it. It didn't talk about looking at it, if there's a prohibition to look at it. But like visiting the Parthenon, for instance.
Right, because they're all
Right?
supposed to be gods, right?
Right, and the place itself was a house of,
right.
It was dedicated to the gods.
Gods,
So,
right.
Yeah, that would be here. Let me just see 1 second. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm going to do it on my phone, not on that. Visiting. So, may Jews create a sculptures, engravings of animals, statues and sculptures, owning statues, tablet magazine. Let's see what they have. I don't know who this person is. Let that go.
Is the Vatican considered a church? I mean, because I've heard of rabbis go there to get awe before the high holidays, or I don't know. One rabbi might have said it.
Right. I don't. I mean, I once heard people quoting Rabbi Riskin that for the sake of the art, there are certain places that you're allowed to go. But I mean, I don't
Hi, Liz.
have a knowledgeable opinion
Hi.
about it. I don't have a
Hi.
knowledgeable opinion about it, except to say that my experience has been that whenever I've asked these questions about churches, the the opinion seems to be that you shouldn't go into them for any reason. So I know the one person I heard of is Rabbi Riskin, and I did not hear it directly or see anything in print, so I don't know if he's the one you're talking about.
Either do I.
Okay. There is a remarkable difference between the prohibition of Jews' idols and those of a non-Jew. While a Jew is forbidden to make an idol, if he makes one intending to use it for pagan worship, it's not considered an idol, but a statue. Once he takes this tragic step of worshiping it, it requires a permanent status as a forbidden idol must be destroyed. When a non-Jew makes an idol with the mere intention of worshiping it, it is immediately considered an idol, even though non-Jews are not prohibited from making such statues. As soon as we repudiate. All right, the Talmud learns these distinctions from the Torah. Regarding a Jew, the Torah says, "Cursed is the man who makes a statue or molten image, the handiwork of a craftsman that is abhorrent to God, and worship it in secret." It doesn't become forbidden until it's worshipped. So what does this have to do with anything? Okay. Forbidden statues. While the prohibition on making idols is one of the 10 commandments, the actual extent of the prohibition seems to follow a perplexing path. The Torah says, don't make yourself a statue or any image of what is in the heavens above or on the earth below. This sounds like very encompassing prohibition. However, a Braita limits this considerably. All faces are permissible except the face of man. Some early medieval authorities limited this even further, ruling that the prohibition only applies to a statue that represents a complete proportional human being, including both face and body. The prohibition on modeling the heavenly bodies is also quite circumscribed. What is the nature of the prohibition? Rav Kook explains that merely making a statue is not comparable with worshiping idols. This incitement, I don't know the different stages of prohibition. I thought it was going to be helpful. This is not going well. How about play dolls in halacha? This is from a Chabad site in Petach. When the Torah discusses the prohibition of graven images, do not make with me, this refers to forming a three-dimensional form of human, since this is the form in which Hashem appeared to the prophets. Aside from the Torah prohibition to form such an image or sculpture, rabbinically, one may not keep such an image that was formed by others, since people might think he made it. If part of the human form is missing, doesn't have a nose or ear, it is allowed. Some hold that it suffices to chip the nose or ear, while others require an entire limb to be removed. This should be done to porcelain figurines and the like. A head without a body is subject to debate amongst poskim. One should refrain from creating it, but one may keep it if you already have it. What about hard play dolls? Many poskim are lenient based on multiple reasons, including idol worship is not possible, not popular nowadays. Contemporary play dolls are clearly not idols, and the prohibition only applies to images that are treated with respect, not dolls that are played with. Others argue that it presents an issue since we don't have the authority to change Chazal's decrees even when circumstances have changed. Some hold that even according to the lenient view, if the doll's leg or arm falls out, one should not reconnecting it, since making a form is a questionable Isser d'Oraisa. In practice, the custom is to be lenient in owning such dolls, but not with making them. Yet, it's preferable to deform the doll by removing a tiny bit from the nose in a way that the child won't even notice. Cloth dolls do not pose any concern since they don't have a human-like figure. A hard head with a cloth body would be like a head alone. So that goes to David's doll collection. This is one that has always perplexed me. A lot of shuls have images of animals. My shul has statues of lions holding the luchot on the ark. Davening toward the statues makes me uncomfortable. Is this a halachic problem? Your question shows quite a bit of sensitivity, and there is a discussion amongst the poskim if it is permitted to have the lions there. Indeed, a number of poskim prohibit making such lines on the Aron Kodesh, and indeed, in many shuls, they don't have them. There are, however, people who are lenient about this, especially if it's only a profile. See, that's the thing with the cameo, right? Oh no, not always. A lot of those cameos are profiles, right?
Yes, most of them.
That seems to be a leniency. It is interesting to note that the discussion amongst the poskim, the halachic authorities, is regarding the prohibition to make images of celestial beings, as there is an image of a lion in the Kisei HaKavod. There is also mention of your issue that we are bowing to it. Rabbi Yosef, however, said that although it is improper to put them there, it isn't really bowing because the two lions are facing each other, holding the crown of the luchos and not facing people. Anyways, you do see lots of discussion about that, but not our specific thing here. Remember I had that discussion with that imam after those ISIS fighters destroyed those giant Buddhas.
Oh yeah.
So I asked him if he has the same issue I have, which is there's a part of me inside that thinks, I mean, I don't know if the Buddha qualifies, but that the destroying of idols is probably something we should be doing. On the other hand, anything that ISIS does is feels wrong. So there's like this I'm not saying I would go around destroying idols, but there does seem to be a mitzvah to destroy idols if they actually have the status of idols. So he told me that they don't. He said, although there are stories of Muhammad doing it, after Muhammad, they didn't anymore. And he said they haven't done it for like over 1,000 years. And that became sort of precedent that you don't need to, even though Muslims controlled a lot of lands who had these kind of idols, they didn't destroy them. And that has become a kind of precedent for nowadays.
But they did destroy those. So what?
Right, those were ISIS guys. Right. So they were ISIS
Fanatic.
guys. So I was right. So I was asking him if he felt some kind of kinship when they were doing it, and he said no, because we don't do it. You know, Muslims are not bidden to destroy it, so he felt no kinship with them over that. Yeah. So the question, our question on the table is: let's say you're somewhere where these images are present. So are you allowed to, just gaze at them or look at them or praise the artistry of them? So that would require, I would imagine, a detailed article, because it would make a difference if this was, I would assume it make a difference if it was actually worshipped, or if it was just an adornment. It would matter who made it.
Right. I'm thinking particularly of that Pietà at the vet, with Mary holding Jesus in her arms. And so we know that Jesus is worshipped, but I don't know. It's
right. Yeah. I would, yeah, not sure. Yeah. Yeah. So you can just see from the discussion we've already read that it would require a detailed article, because distinctions would be made. Let's say I'm walking through a regular sculpture garden. Is there an issue walking through a regular sculpture garden where there are life-size images of human beings So you could see that certainly sculpting it would be problematic. But let's say I'm not sculpting it. Let's say I'm just, walking through and marveling at it or whatever. Is there any problem with that? So we didn't really see that.
I realize that when I've seen statues a lot, I don't know where, altogether, a lot of times, like the nose will be broken off or hand. I'm wondering if that was done by Jews.
Venus. The actual artist broke off the arm so that it would not be.
No, right? Don't you often see those?
Yeah, he was a secret Jew pretending to be. Oh, look at that! The arm fell off. How do you like that? How did that happen? Okay, and now on to our next one. That he prohibited us from preaching for an idol, and for one to call people to serve it and to make them enthused about it. And even if the preacher does not do any of the actions of idolatry besides preaching about it, and if he was preaching for it to the people, he's called a mediach, an instigator. And that is, his may be exalted, saying, ruffians appeared and instigated. But if he preached to an individual, then he's called an inciter. So there's two terms, mesis or mesit and mediach. So mediach is one who is preaching to the masses. And a mesis is what we would call like a missionary who's preaching to one. That is may be exalted, saying, if your brother and your mother's son incite you. However, in this commandment, we are only speaking about the instigator. So we're talking about the first one, which is the mediach. The prohibition that appears about this is his may be saying, shall not be heard in your mouth. And in the Gemara Sanhedrin, they said, shall not be heard in your mouth. That is the prohibition for the inciter. The inciter, it is written explicitly about him, and all of Israel will hear and see, and they will not continue to do. Rather, it is a prohibition for the instigator. And likewise, did they say in the Mechilta, shall not be heard in your mouth? That is the prohibition for the instigator. So right now, the one who's transgressing is the actual instigator, the preacher. One who transgresses negative commandment is liable for stoning. And the laws of this commandment have already been explained in the 10th chapter of Sanhedrin. And it's in the Torah portion of Re'eh. There's a woman who was a friend of my father's who told the story that she has a cousin who became a priest. And he was giving his first sermon at some church. And she and several family members went to hear him. Because even though they weren't themselves supportive of the notion of being Christian, he was still their cousin. So they went to the church to listen to him speak. And they overheard one of the ushers. Somebody asked, why are there all these guests? And the other person said, there's a Jewish priest coming to give a sermon.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of those, actually.
There you go.
The Cardinal of Paris.
Yeah.
Who at one
Loyola's Saint Loyola, second in command was Jewish.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, he converted, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what happened to all of them.
Yes, he was Jewish.
Right, which is not funny, but it's also funny. These things. The Jewish priest. Okay.
I'm gone. He's back with parts. See you tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Be well. And
Bye.
then the last one we're going to do, that is prohibit us from inciting. So that was the second one, something closer to what we would call missionizing. And that is that one preached to an individual Jew to worship an idol. This is called an inciter, as was previously explained. The language of the prohibition of this is, and they will not continue to do this evil thing. One who transgressed this negative commandment is liable for stoning, as appears in the verse, but rather surely kill him. And the person that the inciter is trying to incite is the appropriate one to kill him, as he may be exalted, explains, let your hands be the first against him. The language of the Sifrei is the commandment is with the hand of the incited. The regulations of the commandment have already been explained in Sanhedrin. So for some reason he switched. Oh yeah, okay. So in this, again, the maces is also supposed to be put to death. And the mitzvah is particularly on the person being missionized by the person. Obviously, we're talking about a court case. It's a court case. It has to go to court first. And but when they actually carry out the punishment, the one who was missionized is the one who is supposed to carry out the punishment. That's what it seems to be here.
How do we know it has to go to court? So if someone comes
Right.
up, a Jew comes to you and tries to, you can just stab him. I mean, you're not going to make me do this.
Right. Yeah, I'm just so sure of that. Let's look at that. We will look at it, but I'm certain of it. But let's.
No, I'm
I
sure.
I shouldn't be either, though, because we didn't. He doesn't stress it.
Do you have to warn him not to do it? Don't do this. You're not.
Yeah, I would assume.
Yeah.
And there has to be witnesses, I would assume, and there has to be a trial, I would assume. But
Okay.
let's see how we know that. All right, so we'll look this up and we'll investigate some more. I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
I am so grateful.
With you guys.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much. Be well.
Okay. See you tomorrow. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Bye-bye.